Last week, Japan angered its neighbors by posting 2 videos on YouTube asserting its sovereignty over 2 sets of islands. The South Korean and Chinese government denounced the videos. Tensions over the disputed islands, the Dokdo or Takeshima Islands with South Korea, and the Senkaku or Diaoyu Islands with China, are moving all 3 countries to increase patrols around the islands. And relations between South Korea and Japan are getting worse. Last week, South Korea held a military drill on what it calls Dokdo to assert that it is capable of defending the island. And Japanese nationalism is gaining steam in the midst of these territorial disputes. There's also growing hostility towards ethnic Koreans living in Japan. A Japanese court recently ordered a group of far-right extremists to pay $120,000 in compensation for making offensive comments during hate speech rallies outside of Korean schools. The ruling acknowledged for the first time that explicit insults used in the rallies constituted racial discrimination. Our correspondent in Tokyo, Toshi Maeda, explains.
In Japan, there's been no specific legislation that regulates or bans hate speech. So the recent ruling by a regional court in Kyoto was epoch-making in that it made it clear for the first time in Japan's modern history that speech that fans discrimination and hatred against ethnic minorities is illegal. The issue of freedom of speech versus hate speech came into the spotlight when an anti-Korean activist group called the Zaitoku-kai was ordered by the Kyoto District Court to pay some 12 million yen, or about $120,000, in damages to a Korean school. The far-right group had staged demonstrations outside the school, calling the Korean students children of spies and shouting slogans like "Destroy Korean schools" and "Kick them out of Japan." The group has also called ethnic Koreans in Japan cockroaches and maggots, and the ruling acknowledged all those expressions constituted racial discrimination. The Zaitoku-kai's activities are being held nationwide. In another recent rally in Tokyo, a participant was seen holding a banner that read, "Koreans, hang yourselves, take poison, and jump off to death." In Japan's blogosphere, some commented on the hate speech ruling in the light of Japan's hosting of the 2020 Olympic Games. A female Japanese blogger wrote, "The nature of hate speech this time is a malicious rally against children attending the Korean school." In a speech that was made for Japan's Olympics bid, Japan called itself a country of omotenashi, or hospitality. And this expression made a big impact. But on the other hand, I now realize Japan is also a country that had done nothing to stop hate speeches. Quoting an editorial from the Mainichi Daily newspaper, this information site discussing international affairs argues, because of the experience Japan has learned from the years leading up to and during World War II, many Japanese are still opposed to restricting the freedom of speech, which could potentially allow authorities to exploit it arbitrarily. But it is obvious that we cannot tolerate hate speech being made in public in broad daylight as they currently are. Ahead of the Tokyo Olympics, we will need to take quick action to eliminate racial and ethnic discrimination. Japanese sociologist Jin Igarashi said in his blog, if no penalty was given for repeating hate speech in Japan, Japan would be spreading its image across the world as a country that is abnormal and bizarre. In this sense, this court decision was truly a patriotic one, which saved the honor of Japan and the Japanese people. But not everybody agrees. Some, like this Twitter user, insist the freedom of speech not be restricted at all. Anything that a Japanese citizen says could be potentially considered a hate speech. In today's Japan, whoever raises his or her voice would be forced to pay the price. Another commented on a news blog site, the ruling is rather discrimination against the Japanese, as it's unilaterally accepting foreigners' claim based on a vaguely defined artificial term like hate speech. The court in Kyoto also ordered the anti-Korean group Zaitoku-kai to stay at least 600 feet away from the Korean school. The group has already appealed the ruling to a high court. I'm Toshi Maeda in Tokyo for LinkAsia.
U.S. airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.